This podcast is brought to you by the Prospect Research Institute, where researchers come to learn, innovate, and connect. Welcome to Prospect Research Chat Bites member series. I'm Jennifer Filla. Today, I'm talking with Research Fundraisers member Bryan Campbell, Assistant Director, Prospect Research and Management at Bucknell University. Hello, Bryan. Thank you for joining me today on Chat Bites.
Thanks for having me.
So I remember when you and I first met, it was the APRA conference in Nashville years ago now. And I remember because you made the most wonderful book recommendation for me. And now that you're a research fundraiser member, it's no surprise that I'm tapping you to share on this special Chat Bites member series. You probably remember that APRA conference in Nashville.
I sure do, actually. I think I was attending one of the cocktail hours after the conference program that day, and we started chatting.
Yeah.
We discovered that we had some common interests. You know, we were roughly from the Philadelphia area, and that one thing led to another. And then I recommended that book to you that my wife was reading at the time.
And I have since passed that on to my daughter. She loved it. It was great.
Oh, that's great.
So before I ask my three questions, I'm wondering if you'd be willing to share with us how you got into prospect research.
Yeah, sure. So my background is I come from a librarian background. So for many years, I worked in a number of different academic research libraries. And from high school, I thought I was just going to be a librarian. And so I worked in these various libraries. And I was particularly interested in being a cataloger and a reference librarian. When we moved to where we are now, I looked for library work, and there was no library work for me at the time. But, you know, in looking at job openings, I noticed the research position, one of the preferred qualifications was somebody with a library background. I also have a friend in prospect research who for many years was saying to me, "Hey, Bryan, this might be something you might be interested in doing." As luck would have it, I applied for the position, and I got it.
And you like it?
I do. Yes, I do.
That's great.
I like to think of it as almost like library work with just narrower set of questions. And I also don't feel the kind of anxiety I used to feel when I was at the reference desk and I would just get any old random question and I would have to quickly get up to speed on that particular topic or that particular question. Whereas now it's not as anxiety provoking. I still get seemingly random questions, but I have a sense for how I'm going to answer them.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So let me launch into my three questions for you today. And the first one is, what are three of your favorite resources to keep current in fundraising and prospect research?
You know, there are so many resources out there, but if I had to choose three, I'd say Prospect.L, which is the main list that we all subscribe to and keep up with from time to time. That's great. There are so many people from different institutions, different backgrounds, asking and then answering really interesting questions. Certainly, I keep up through your stuff. Certainly, I'm taking a course with you, but also I know you're pretty active on LinkedIn and other platforms, so I use that. And then also Helen Brown, she has her Twitter account that I look in on from time to time, and so all three of those things I view as like quality filters. I mean, there are just so many resources out there, but you, Prospect.L, and Helen Brown seem to have your finger on the pulse of prospect research, so you make the job easier for me.
Well, that's great to hear. And I know Prospect.L, now APRA has sort of branched that out into multiple forums. How do you kind of keep track of that? It feels like a bit of a fire hose sometimes.
It is, and the librarian in me likes to keep things under control. In my case, I've set up filters in Gmail so that when a particular message comes in, I have it saved that if it's coming from that particular forum, it gets filtered into its own file in Gmail, or tag, I guess it is. And then whenever I want to look in on it, I do.
I do some of that myself because I subscribe to so many things.
Yeah, in my library days, we have a similar forum in my case, I wanted to be a cataloger, and we have a forum called AutoCat. And that could be like a fire hose. Any sort of listserv could be like a fire hose. And I would, have filters for it. And then in the library world, there are also just tons and tons of other listservs. And I used to subscribe to everything. And now I've been a bit more selective because you can't possibly read it, and I was having to delete so much
Right.
over time.
Okay, so we've got your top three favorite resources. What about a book that you would recommend on any topic that you think everyone should read?
I recommend this book called 5 Minutes for Fundraising. It's by Martin Liefeld. I started by watching his video series by the same name, and then later saw that he wrote a book, and I've enjoyed it because it gives a perspective from the fundraiser's perspective. What's it like to go out on a call? What do you need to keep in mind when you're preparing for a solicitation or whatever? And I just like to take the perspective of the other person. I come at it from my own perspective, and I make assumptions about what I think they should or should not do. And I have to keep in mind that these are the people who are actually interacting in person with fundraisers. They're making trips, they're preparing for their calls. And I just think it's useful to take their perspective from time to time.
Well, that's great. I actually was familiar with his videos and I did not realize that he wrote a book too. That's wonderful.
And maybe at some future chat bites, you could invite him on and maybe do a co-branded chat bites 5 minutes for fundraising video or something.
Oh, that's a great idea. I love it. And it is so important for us to understand what that frontline fundraiser is facing, and it helps us prepare them better.
Yeah, they do quite a lot, and I'm not out there feeling the anxiety of potentially getting a no to a solicitation, or also, having to remember everything that happened during the call, and then hoping that all of it makes its way back into a contact report. It's a tough job, and I know I couldn't do it. Better them than me.
Great recommendation. So here's my third question for you. How do you manage FOMO, the fear of missing out in our hyper connected digital world?
I don't worry too much about the fear of missing out. We talked earlier about those three sources that I like to go to keep up on things. And I view them as kind of like quality filters. And so I don't have to work so hard or fear that I'm missing out too much, because I feel that, Prospect L, Helen Brown, or you're going to hit upon stuff that is going to be of importance to us all. And I think that that's enough. there's just too much to do to get too worried about it.
Okay, Brian. So now I understand I have FOMO. You're counting on me.
oh, oh, I'm so sorry.
Little pressure. No, that's
Well,
great.
you started it all.
It's true. It's true. I use filters as well. I tend to focus on particular hashtags, or I
Okay.
also I've created groups in Twitter so that, again, I'm not looking at that big feed of everything. Somehow we have to narrow it down.
I don't think I've ever done groups in Twitter, but I'll have to look at that, because that's always it's always helpful to pick up new tips on how to get at the good stuff.
Yeah, you can create a list of people.
Oh, interesting. And you just narrow on those people.
Yes, then you
Oh,
can,
wow.
just look at them. Well, I use Hootsuite.
Oh, okay. Is that the one that just like it just beeps at you all the time? It makes a sound when something new comes in?
Oh, I don't have any notifications on, so I
Oh,
don't
okay, gotcha.
know. Well, great recommendations today, Brian. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, thanks again for having me.
That was Institute member Bryan Campbell, Assistant Director, Prospect Research and Management at Bucknell University. And fear not, I'm adding hyperlinks to all his favorite resources in the show notes.
Hey there. If you enjoyed this member interview, you have to come check out the Prospect Research Institute's learning community. It's a membership community with incredible people, great discussions, and comprehensive courses. Check it out at member.prospectresearchinstitute.org. I'd love to have you join me as a member. I'll see you there.